We're seeing in two polls this morning, there's a Frechette effect. You're down, she's up. What do you think?
Well, she seems to be up at, 18? I think it's a tight race between the Parti québécois and us at 30%. I think the Quebecers are done with the CAQ. They have done so many damage when it comes to public services and the economy. So it's our job, and with our candidates, you've seen all the many candidates that we've been announcing in the past few days, René Verret, Benoît Clermont, Dr. Cécile Tremblay, Pierre Cossette. Those people are putting their job and their professional life on hold to serve Quebecers, and it's a strong signal that it's going to be a very interesting race in the coming months.
Okay, that's a good answer from Charles Milliard, I think. The reference there, the question about a new poll that just came out showing the Quebec Liberal Party and the PQ are basically in a dead heat on top. Would have thought the answer to that, David Heurtel, would have been, yes, the CAQ's doing better. Did I need to remind you, we're at 30%, they're at 18%. But anyway, he had some context. David Heurtel, former Quebec Liberal cabinet minister, political analyst. David, what do you make of the poll, and what do you make of what Charles Milliard said?
Well, it was the right thing to say, but, and it's a pretty big but, the poll, when you look at the details of the poll, there's reason for concern for the Liberals. When you look at the seat projections, it means that the Parti québécois, and this has been true now for several months, the Parti québécois would form either a very strong minority government or a very, very slight majority government. The problem with the Liberals right now is that in Francophone Quebec, they're in third place. They're at 17%, which is actually a drop when you look at other recent polls. Some polls that put them as high as 22% in the last several weeks and months. So this is very concerning. The Quebec City region, for example, which is very important because not just for the overall region itself, but it's kind of a bellwether for central Quebec. The Liberals are in fourth place, Aaron. They're not very competitive. They could win a few seats here and there in Quebec City proper, but they're in fourth place. So and I can't help but thinking, but the Synopsis poll was taken May 7th to 10th. So last Thursday to last Sunday. And that was, of course, the end of, a very, very difficult week for Charles Milliard and the Liberals. I can't help but wondering, would the numbers be better? And could we actually see better results for the Liberals if the Liberals didn't have all these different issues to deal with language and with what's going on with DUPAC and the report from the ethics commissioner. So I'm just saying right now, also the fact you can't minimize what's happening with Christine Frechette. I mean, the satisfaction numbers are around 37-38%, Aaron. It was in the low 20s with François Legault. And so that's hurting the Liberals. Now, the big question, what seems to be shaping up for the election is where will Francophone Quebec, outside of the greater Montreal area, where will Francophone Quebec go if they don't want a PQ government? And that's still not clear. Charles Milliard still has to close that deal with the Francophone electorate outside of Montreal, and he has not even begun to do that yet, and the numbers still confirm it.
So with respect to that, he mentioned some of the people who were announced this week as candidates, serious people in different serious posts in law, in economy, in healthcare. How much of that do you think resonates with, you talked about the areas outside of Montreal where they're not doing well. Does any of that, when you start hearing familiar names, does that begin to make a difference? So it's not about Charles Milliard anymore. It's about these people who believe the Liberals have a chance to win, and that's why they're running.
Okay. We talked about this earlier with Pierre Cossette. He's a big deal in Sherbrooke. But right now, when you look at the polling in the townships, the Liberals are leading. They're leading in the Outaouais region. They're leading in Laval. They're leading Montreal. A few South Shore ridings near Montreal. Basically, we're looking at the map the way it looked at the 2012 election. And so these are not huge names nationally speaking. So it's not like in Quebec City you're excited because either Michel Leblanc or Julie White or Pierre Cossette is running for the Liberals. What it is saying, though, is that for people who are considering running for the Liberals in those more difficult ridings in the regions, in Francophone Quebec, that is why these announcements are important. But because there is momentum. When you can't recruit, it is so difficult to get momentum going. Just ask Dominique Anglade in 2022. She couldn't recruit anybody. And so that's why right now the announcements not only stop the horrible conversations on language and corruption from last week, but the announcements also are saying, look, we are drawing people in. But until you see big names that are big names in those regions where the Liberals are trailing badly, that's still going to be a problem.
Okay. Let me move on and ask one other thing. I'm not sure if we were going to talk about this, but I'm curious as you were just mentioning this now. This announcement today, the clarification, if you will, from Jean-François Robert is that the extension of Bill 96 to adult ed and to vocational training will not affect 10,000 students, which is what Christine Frichette had originally said, but in fact 27,000 who were studying in English who will now be forced to study in French. And I wonder what you make of that.
Well, first of all, I'm still waiting, and we've been waiting for years now with all these measures in English education. Can you is there anything factual, any study that links the perceived decline of French to this specifically? By going after 27,000 vocational and adult education students that are currently learning in English, what is the link, and how does this affect French in Quebec, and how it's doing this now, preventing them from continuing their education in English, will somehow improve dramatically the supposed decline, this terrible decline of French in Quebec, which is still, in factually speaking, not necessarily proven.
Right, exactly.
And so first of all, it has no basis in real fact. Two, we are currently, Aaron, you talk about that, I think every week or every other week, we directly or indirectly, we talk about labor shortages in Quebec, especially in the vocational field. And if you're an adult, going back to education, it's very rare that you're only doing this for fun. Usually, if an adult goes back and does education at an adult level, at an adult status rather, it's because it's linked to a job either you want to get or a job that you currently have that to keep you need this education or you want to move up. Now, and of course, I'm just speculating here, but I would figure that for a lot of these people, if they've been able to do their education in English legally in Quebec, and now all of a sudden, thank you, you can't continue, or you can't do your education in English on the vocational side or the adult side, what happens is that these are people we need in the workforce. And if they can't, some of them may actually just give up, so we lose these people. But they might just go somewhere else. They might go to Ontario. They might go somewhere else to do the work, to do the education and the work they're training for. And so this is another shot in the foot that we can't afford. And the final point is, where do we get off telling adults what to do with their education? There was this line before, right? And so this makes absolutely no sense. It's another desperate attempt to score nationalist points by the CAQ and Christine Frichette, and it has no basic fact. I just want to draw a parallel. This government, it does this all the time. Look, we've learned earlier this week that the 11 teachers at the Bedford School, lost their teaching certificates, right? And so, just for the record, none of these teachers were wearing religious symbols. None of them. Yet, because of what happened at the Bedford School, we had a new bill about religious symbols and public prayers that had nothing to do with what happened at Bedford, yet that bill was a reaction to Bedford.
Yeah.
So no relationship with fact, no relationship with anything measurable. That's what this government has always been about. And yet again, we're suspending fundamental rights, individual rights here on the education side. And it's probably going to mean another expensive fight before the courts. But again, I don't see how this gets you more votes if you're the CEQ, and I don't see how this strengthens French in any way.
So let me use that, and I think you make an excellent point. And I think a lot of people go, yeah, he's right. This idea of promoting and protecting the French language, that dogma that has been with this party since the get-go. You're François Legault, you're Christine Frechette, and someone asked that question. All right, how does this forcing 27,000 people out of the English system into the French system, how does this, in fact, promote or protect the French language? What's your answer as the leader of the CAQ?
Well, it's going to be the same. Look, if you just walk, I'll give you Robert's during the whole McGill and Concordia saga. Robert, you just have to walk in Montreal. You know that French is in decline. Really? There are academics at the Université Laval that wrote a very big book about this, and it's not that clear at all. But anyways, so what she's going to talk about, and because, again, that goes back to the leadership race and the strength of Bernard Drinville during that race. She has to strengthen that nationalist side of her party. And to survive, she's going to have to show some teeth on that ultra-nationalist side to get her poll numbers up and to keep her caucus together. And I think that's one of the ways she's going to do it. But again, it's the old song, can't you see? French is in decline. Yeah. We all see it, but when you ask for facts, very hard to get them.
Yeah, kind of like PSPP saying he can't prove it. He doesn't have the details or the proof, but he knows that the feds are spying on the PQ. That's a good reaction today, didn't it, in Quebec City?
That's another example. We have a theme today, right, about fact-based reasoning. But, we keep talking about, Trumpism and how, we're lucky it's not here. But this is what happens where certain governments just let go of fact-based reasoning. Because today, we talked about this. Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon yesterday goes off, and because of something that happened decades ago, that's enough to say, well, it must be happening now. Yeah. Which has no basis in fact, no evidence, nothing. And so you have today, and this is very serious, Aaron, the Justice Minister of Quebec, a lawyer, Simon Jolin Barrette, saying this is legitimate. And the reasoning, it's happened before. And so he says, and he used the word legitimate, the Justice Minister of Quebec, on a baseless accusation that the federal government is listening to conversations of the Parti Québécois and again, we have the Justice Minister giving credence to this, while the Vice Premier of Quebec, Yann Lafrenière, had said earlier in the day, I would be very surprised if something like this was happening now. So this is what we have in terms of governments right now. We have people just throwing things out there for political gain, political purpose, with no basis in fact, no evidence. It's the death of reasoning, and I can't accept it from the Minister of Justice. It's bonkers.
Boy, is it ever. David, thank you. Appreciate it. Talk to you again tomorrow. Take good care.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. We're coming to get you! One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all. Bryan Adams Radio. I'm coming back to you. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Hey everybody, how are you tonight? Sounds great.